with the expectation that the President will address the nation tonight, many organizations remain hopeful to breathe a sigh of relief with the easing of restrictions. The South African Medical Association, however, has been resolute in its stance that more stringent measures to curb the rising COVID-19 cases should remain in place. That is despite the acting health minister, Mamuloko Ngubane, who is asserting, or who should I say asserted on Friday, that the peak of the third wave is beyond us. Well, the association's chairperson is going to join my colleague Pelane Phakgadi at the Union Buildings in just a moment. Firstly, Pelane, a very good afternoon to you. So lots of expectations on the President tonight, but very interesting contrasting views between what the minister, the acting Minister of Health, is saying versus what the Medical Association is calling for, which is tighter restrictions. What might the President do tonight?
Definitely, and I could tell you that tighter restrictions is what is needed as far as ensuring that the country's efforts to deal with the rising numbers of COVID-19 is concerned. And as well as we here at the Union Buildings, we have seen a movement. The broadcasting vans are here, so the President will be addressing the nation, as you already put it, at around 8:30 later on this particular evening. And stringent measures, of course, are needed, but there also has to be, that consideration of the economy and the markets. Joining me now, as far as talking about their expectations is concerned, is Dr. Angelique Kotsia, speaking on behalf of the South African Medical Association. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us here on Newzroom Channel 405 and coming here to the Union Buildings. Just to give us this insight, firstly, what is your immediate expectation?
Good afternoon, and thank you for asking Salma's opinion and view on this. Our immediate expectation is that not a lot is going to change tonight, but we presume that the schools will start opening up from tomorrow. We hope that the curfew will stay. We hope that maybe the off-sales would be opening up. We hope that there would be something around, especially teachers who don't want to take the vaccination. What are the recourses if they don't do it and parents are insisting that you have to be vaccinated if you want to teach my child? So I think there's a lot of things in that there that needs to be discussed. Also, coming back to the alcohol ban, we need to look at what is the underlying problems. Why are we such a violent country when, especially in certain communities, when alcohol is involved? Yeah. We also need to be careful, again, that the alcohol-related incidents, stabbing, gunshots, all of that, don't increase again and put a strain onto the casualties. Yeah. For now, we are seeing a less patients with COVID-19 newly diagnosed. But if you go and look at the average hospitals in South Africa, whether it's public or private, there's still a problem. There's still not enough beds. Yeah. So we cannot now have our beds overrun again by accidents or by alcohol-related problems. So that's, to find that balance, it's extremely important.
Definitely, and that is your expectation. Just talk to us. I mean, you and I are just talking off air now, just say that the fourth wave is inevitable, but work has to be done from now to ensure that the rollout of the vaccines is reached as targets are put there. But there may be challenges as far as that is concerned. There may be, the numbers might dwindle down at some point from the people who are currently receiving vaccines. So take us through your research.
So what we know about human behavior is because there was a lot of pressure put on government to open up the vaccines for younger age groups. We know that even within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think from 18 years upwards, would also be opening up for their vaccines to be administered to them. So there will be a huge uptake. And then it's to get that momentum going, to keep that momentum going, because as we know, after the first hoo-ha, I've been vaccinated, once if that dies down, that's when the trouble is going to start. And if we want to reach 35 million by the end of this year, government seriously now needs to start to plan on once this hype is over? How are we going to get them back? And as well for the second jab.
Yeah.
So that's a tough thing, but it needs to happen. We need to be there.
Definitely. Thank you very much there, Dr. Angelique Kwetsiye, speaking on behalf of the South African Medical Association, saying that the fourth wave is inevitable and the president and his cabinet really has to start dealing decisively with planning on around ensuring that the vaccine targets are realized, 35 million by the end of this year. How are they going to ensure that once the noise around "I've got vaccinated," as the doctor puts it, really dies down? How are they going to ensure that the message still goes across to try and lure in more people to go through and get their jab?
Pelane, Phakgadi, thank you very much for that update live for us at the Union Buildings. Well, just a few hours away from President Cyril Ramaphosa's address, the lobby group calling itself Pastors Against Church Closure are calling for the reopening of churches. This comes as the country records over 12,000 new COVID-19 cases and 413 deaths just on Saturday alone. We are joined now by Nasiphi Same. She is in Cape Town. That's our reporter there. Nasiphi, very good afternoon to you. So what are church leaders saying exactly? All right, Nasiphi Same, it looks as though she is unable to hear us at the moment. We'll try and get her back on a better line. In the meantime, the alcohol industry is another sector that will be watching the president's address carefully. We go now to Linda Mnisi, who is in Tembisa. Linda, a very good afternoon to you. So you have been there for some time. Talk to us about what the community's expectations are of the president's address tonight.
Well, of course, the expectations, Polly, are very high, and I'm at Lifestyle Car Wash this afternoon, which has suffered the same fate. You'll remember that on the 10th of July, liquor traders wrote to the president, including various ministers, seeking a partial lifting of the ban on alcohol, detailing really what it has done to the liquor trading industry and how people who are owners and are traders have suffered. Now, in that particular letter, rather, Tony, the liquor traders are also asking for some relief measure, saying that they've been writing various letters since last year asking for relief measures, and the proposal in that letter is that each liquor trader whose license or those who are permit holders be granted at least 20,000 rands, a once-off payment, which will help them. You'll remember there are various costs that are involved in running such businesses, and when government opens, they're also expected to trade within, the confines of the law. Now, running costs also that include things like renewal of licenses, because they must still comply with the regulations, with the rules of the law. But joining me right now is Sam Sithole, who is the owner of Lifestyle Car Wash. As you see behind him, the car wash is still continuing, perhaps something that gives him money and which helps him essentially to feed his family. Sam, thank you so much for your time. I want us to talk about the costs that are involved. I mean, in running such a business, just because it's closed, it does not mean there aren't any costs that need to be paid for.
Yeah, obviously, right. Thank you. We've got the rentals that are going on that we still need to pay, security factors that we still need to pay, and all the other things. The other thing that we have, we've got staff that is sitting at home and so forth, that there's nothing we can do about it. We're just hoping the president could give us a relief, possibly, just to allow us to operate. And I hope this time it will be permanent when they do try to open that particular thing.
And as a sector, I mean, you've proposed various measures on how you can comply with COVID-19 regulations. I mean, when you speak about the president opening up permanently, how do you then assist things like the healthcare sector, who have complained about the alcohol-related injuries that are filling hospitals during a time of a pandemic?
You know, what we pick up, whether the time has been cut, the operating time has been cut, if we can get just a time so that people can drive earlier when they go back home and so forth. And we normally put up the big banners outside there that we don't support the drinking and driving and so forth. Most of our customers, they're using the Uber facilities and so forth. That's one of some of the things that really happen. But over to that, the people that are selling outside our outlet, it could be one or two, but you know, they used to get about 100 or 500 rand per night, but now, you know, it looks like I'm the one who closed. I didn't close because I wanted to close, but the law, when they say we close, then that's what we need to abide by.
And I mean, you know, how has this, speak to us about how it has really impacted on your employees, having to call them back, you know, and knowing that, of course, many of them are not even receiving UIF.
Yeah, absolutely. What we have to, on some instances, most of our employees are, they're renting around the township here, and what we have to use the resources that we have, that we compromise paying for our services, some of our cars and so forth, so that we need to accommodate them, so that they need to be able to pay their landlord. It becomes difficult. So that even their landlord, it's just a chain that goes on when you look at it, because when they're not paying their rent, their landlord are not benefiting and so forth. So we've got a chain rather than me negotiating with my banks and so forth. So it becomes a chain that it's a long chain when you look at it. It's not only us on traders alone, but our employees that are sitting at home that we need to look into.
And as an owner, I mean, you're suffering from a lot of strain, you know, with what you're carrying, including the people that benefit from your business, like you put it. There's a lot of change. But personally, talk to me about how this has affected you as the owner and your family, your personal finances as well.
Yeah, when it comes to personal finances, it became very difficult. We didn't know. When the president introduced the first lockdown, we thought, yes, maybe through the savings that we have, we can be able to survive. And then the lockdown continues. It's more or less almost 2 years now. We've been on lockdown. And whatever savings that we have, basically you've got the bonds, you've got the cars that you need to pay. Whether you take it back or not, you still need to pay the bank and so forth. So we're incurring a lot of debt, and I don't know how it's going to last.
All right, there you have it, Sithole. He's the owner of Lifestyle Car Wash, giving us a detailed account of how the industry has suffered, saying that it is, of course, a long chain. It's not only him who suffers, but the people that benefit from his business. He speaks about vendors that, you know, would usually be outside his business when, of course, he trades. He speaks about, you know, the transport industry, because a lot of people are, of course, been using, you know, e-hailing services to come to his business. It's his birthday today, as you can hear behind you. They are wishing him well, but he's also spoken about, you know, personally how this has, of course, affected him. Tony?
Yeah, Linda. Well, I mean, it's a bittersweet moment, isn't it? Businesses struggling on the one end, and indeed, the personal lives, though, have got to continue. So hopefully that particular business is going to somewhat breathe a sigh of relief when the president does speak tonight. Well, as we have been saying, the president just hours away from giving that all-important address, the church lobby group calling itself Pastors Against Church Closure are calling for the reopening of churches. This comes as the country records over 12,000 new COVID-19 cases and sadly 413 deaths just on Saturday alone. We're joined now by Nasiphi Same. She's our reporter in Cape Town. Nasiphi, talk to us about what the church groups in Cape Town and their expectations are of the president tonight.
Well, pastors against church closures here in the Western Cape have been waiting with bated breath for months, waiting for the president to finally reopen and allow religious activity in South Africa. And we understand that the closure of churches came following the increasing numbers of active COVID-19 cases and new infections. But I am joined by Apostle Mnisi here, who's going to talk to us about his stance, if they still believe that the president should be reopening, taking into account the increasing numbers, including deaths that we have been seeing related to COVID-19.
Thank you, Nasi. Thank you in the name of Jesus. Yes, we are calling for the opening of churches. Remember, we are not changing. We are still saying open churches. Last week or the week before, the president opened restaurants. They opened gyms. Now they are talking of opening schools. And you tell me what's the difference between all these institutions. We even argue that it is safer to be in a church environment than being in a school or a restaurant. I was in a restaurant just 2 weeks ago, not 2 days ago, and there were no wearing of masks, you know. In the church, you wear mask. We're saying open churches under strict protocols, safety protocols, wearing of masks, sanitizing, and social distancing. We've been doing that. We did it at the time of Passover. There were no numbers going up. The numbers that are going up, we attribute it to the opening of the political activities, where they started to have big political gatherings. So we are saying, as the church, we are compliant. We have called for compliance, and we are doing it very well. So open churches with immediate effect. So we don't expect anything less that the president must say. And if things go as they are pushing us to a point where we'll have to choose between obeying man or obeying God. And the scriptures tells us that we should obey God, like the Daniel of old. They did obey God when they were told not to pray. So we are calling upon the opening of churches. That's our stance.
Thank you so much. Apostle Mnisi there from Pastors Against Church Closures, giving us an update and also standing firm in their stance, calling on the president to reopen churches and allow religious activity, citing that restaurants and other industries have opened in the recent weeks, and they are saying that they will ensure that there's compliance within churches and ensure that they don't play a part in the numbers increasing of new COVID-19 infections.
Nasiphi Same, thank you very much for that update.